How to make an easy, inexpensive garden arbor coming right up. Hi, it's Marcie. Welcome back. If you have 5 minutes, join me as I take you through my garden and show you how I created simple arches that were very inexpensive to make, and they adorn my pathways as well as for my edibles in my main garden. Garden arbors add such beauty, elegance, and style to an already gorgeous landscape. It really steps it up. It elevates it to a new level. The items that you'll need to make your archway, the first one at least, is PVC. And this one is a 600 PSI SCH 40 PR. And depending on how many you are making in terms of archways is how many you're going to be buying, and also determining the height as well as the width. That's very important. So figure that out before you go to the store and make your purchase. The other item is a 1/2 inch rebar. You're going to do the 1/2 inch by 4 feet. That makes it more solid. Zip ties. Oh, my favorite. Lots of them. Lots of zip ties. You can always use those. I bought 2 types of rolled wire. This is for rabbits, and you can tell that the wire is a little bit different here. This is a 22 inch by 50 foot roll. This one is hog wire, and it is a 48 inch by 50 foot roll. If you're doing a lot of archways, you're gonna probably want the 100 foot roll. What I don't have shown here are hammer, as well as some wire cutters and scissors. Also beneficial is a second person for a second set of hands. So we're developing an archway with PVC and rebar for the Malabar spinach, which is a perennial vine here in zone 10B. And you can see I've got clusters and clusters of it, but really needed to develop something that was a little bit more substantial because it is taking over my garden. It's beautiful, but it's definitely taking over my garden. And I'm going to be putting some of this wire to make up the arch, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. I'm very excited. So we have rebar, and we have 1/2 inch PVC piping over the rebar, which is going to make it very flexible so that we can create the archway, and then with the galvanized wire. Okay, I'll update you in a second as it develops. Very excited about this. I'm going to show you 2 areas, actually 3 areas that I was using the PVC. Now, this is the vegetable area, and I put the rebar through a raised bed, so it's a little higher. This is a 48 inch wide, as well as, using the same PVC, lots of cable ties, or otherwise known as zip ties. I'm using this for my indeterminate tomatoes, green beans, and snap peas. Yeah, don't mind the way I garden. I'm a little crazy at the gardening. Little wild, little carefree, but that's my style. And on this side, the same thing. So basically, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be able to reach up and grab your produce right through the wire, which is very handy dandy, as well as reach under right here, because I lifted this up about, I guess it's about 15 inches from the bottom of the soil up to the top. Now, you could choose or not choose to put the piece of wood here. Look at that. I can eat while I'm filming. Isn't that nice? Wow, I'm really good. Okay, so now depending on what you're growing is going to be dependent on how many supports you're going to need for here. Right now, I'm just growing the beans, lightweight things, lightweight cucumbers, as well as little squash. So this is how I did it, and this seems to be sufficient enough. Now over here is where I grew my loofah. And this was a different story because the loofah required a third support in the center because the loofah is very heavy. And if you don't put the third support there, you're gonna find your caging, your metal wiring, sagging. And that's not a good thing. It's not bad, of course, when they dry, they're super lightweight, but when they're starting to grow and they're super heavy, oh my gosh, it's like a big club that's sitting on top of your caging, and it just doesn't work out. Now look at this, look at the size of these things. So when you have a lot of these growing in one area, the whole thing sags. Ask me how I know that? Because it happened to me. And I had to put that third support in there. That's okay, you live and learn, right? That's what it's all about. Again, this is a 7-foot high archway with a PVC, and we have a rabbit wire, which is the 22-inch wire. You can see that the holes are a little bit different. I didn't care about that. That didn't bother me at all. And right now I have transplanted here some of my Malabar spinach. It makes a great ornamental vine as well as edible. It takes up some serious real estate because it is an aggressive plant. So you need to take care as to what you plant on something like this because it does take over. I guess you have to consume a lot of spinach. Again, the zip ties. In about 8 weeks, this thing will be entirely covered. This archway is a little bit different, and I'm going to tell you why. Same wire as the hog wire, which is the 48-inch by the 50-foot length roll that I bought. This is where I'm growing some grapes, and they're not that heavy. I raised the height. This is about 9 feet tall. No, actually it's about 8 feet tall, excuse me. About 8 feet tall. But what I did is I joined it right here because I needed the height. I joined it right here with a 3/4 inch joint, PVC joint, and glued it. And over here is the other joint. If you are going to be laying in some really heavy fruits or vine, I wouldn't suggest it because it could potentially break. And I did have that happen to me with one of my aggressive vines. It did start sagging. And what I'm going to do is go over to the other archway to show you the correction that we made so we didn't have to take the whole thing down. The sky vine is the one that started sagging on me. It started swaying to the left-hand side. And I'm going to show you in here what we did to correct it because it was so heavily laden with flowers and vines, I certainly didn't want to take the whole thing down. All right, see that? Thank God for zip ties. Oh my goodness gracious. Another rebar, this is a 1/4 inch rebar, and basically just took it, and that's the joint, and took the rebar and ran it down to correct it. I did that over here as well because it was another joint, and that corrected it immediately. So no harm, no foul. And it's looking good as ever. It's beautiful. Now in hindsight, the only thing I may have done differently was I wouldn't have run the wood strips down at the bottom, which was purely put there not for aesthetic reasons, but for preventing the wire from nicking or scratching anybody when they reached in to weed or maybe pick fruit. But honestly, I think by turning up the wire with some needle nose pliers, it would simply have done the trick. I feel like this draws attention to the area, so maybe I would change that up a little bit. I could always take it off, it doesn't really bother me that much right now. Another entrance to the main garden is using 4x4 wood supports by 10 feet. And this has an aggressively growing passion fruit on it. I think I planted about 6 plants here, but it is using the same hog wire and cable ties. Basically, the 4x4s went about 15 inches, no, actually 18 inches down. And you can see where the hog wire runs up and all around, and then down again. So what we have here are 10-foot 4x4s, and I bought some caging. This is like a galvanized fencing. It's the welded wire, and with a 2-inch by 4-inch rectangular opening, and we dug some holes. We're doing it 48 by 48 inches across, 4 feet by 4 feet, and these holes are about 20 inches or so deep. There's a saying that you can never have enough shoes to wear, but honestly, I think it's you can never have enough arches or arbors to use in your garden. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a beautiful day.